This is your Week 7 fantasy football preview. For Week 7, I have 7 quarterbacks you should have your eye on. First one's Brian Hoyer from my Browns. He had a decent game last week, but more importantly, the next three opponents of the Browns are pretty bad teams, and so I look for him to have multiple touchdowns in each game. And so he's a decent pickup for fantasy. Joe Flacco threw 5 touchdowns in the first half, which is crazy. I'm not really a big believer in Flacco, but he had a really good game last game, so maybe we'll keep that going. Glennon had a pretty solid game in my opinion. Tom Brady is looking like himself. The Patriots are playing better football, so he's a must start on your team most likely. Derek Carr from the Raiders had a very good game against. They actually kept it pretty close against the Chargers. I think he threw 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, which is pretty solid, especially from a fantasy perspective. Carson Palmer had 2 touchdowns, no picks. Pretty good first game back for him. And last but not least, Kaepernick. Kaepernick looked very good. He actually kind of played a perfect game. He threw a touchdown pass to Vance McDonald, I think his name is, the backup tight end, and Vernon Davis got in the way and it was incomplete. So they're playing Denver, and it's going to be a shootout, and Kaepernick looks like he's playing really good football right now. Moving on to running backs, I have a ton of running backs this week to look at. The only guy that I'm not confident in is Storm Johnson from the Jaguars, partially because I don't know when Gerhardt's coming back, and partially because the Jaguars aren't good, so they're going to be playing from behind, so they won't run much. The running backs I have for this week is Trent Richardson. He had another solid game for the Colts. Isaiah Crowell for the Browns. He didn't get nearly as much touches as Ben Tate, but when he did touch the ball, he was very productive. So he's worth looking at. Sankey for the Titans had a decent game. Not anything crazy, but if you're desperate, he's worth putting in. Forsett had over 100. I love Forsett. He had over 100 yards for the Ravens. Rainey had a good game, considering he has a much better yards per carry average than Doug Martin. So the question is, are they going to start Rainey over Martin eventually? Hopefully they will. Moving on, Darren McFadden had about 80 yards rushing, not bad. Oliver from San Diego had another good game. He is the pickup in fantasy from last week. Still kicking myself for not taking him in all 5 leagues. Lamar Miller is a very good pickup for fantasy because Knowshon Moreno's out for the season. McKinnon from the Vikings had a good game. Kind of kicking myself for that when I dropped him in one of my leagues. I think he had 18 fantasy points, but he's a solid option for a pickup. Joique Bell, he had a good game. Reggie Bush is out. I don't know if he's going to be back this week or not, but Joique Bell does a good job in relief of Reggie Bush for sure. Last but not least, Ronnie Hillman had exactly 100 yards for the Broncos. Don't look too much into that. 100 yards is 100 yards, but the Jets were basically daring the Broncos to run the ball. And so he ran on a really soft defense, kind of. Moving on to receivers. Receivers, I have Brandon LaFell. He scored twice. He is the big target for Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's playing good football, so it makes sense. Good pickup. Shorts from the Jaguars had 16 targets. It's a ton of targets, man. And they're a bad team, so they throw a lot. It makes sense. Woods from the Bills, he has consistently had good targets all year, so obviously the people in Buffalo believe in Woods, so he's a decent look. Sanu is a good play if A.J. Green doesn't play for the 2nd week in a row. Malcolm Floyd, looks like old Malcolm Floyd for San Diego, so he's worth looking at. He's produced week in and week out. Holmes from the Raiders had 2 touchdowns. I'm not sure if that'll continue, but he looked pretty good on Sunday. And last but not least, Randall. Randall's a good pickup for the Giants because Victor Cruz is out for the season. All right, moving on to tight ends. There's only 3. Jordan Cameron from the Browns finally looked like Jordan Cameron. Thank God. He's worth looking and starting if you have him. Amaro from the Jets had 12 targets, a lot of targets. I'm not sure if that's going to continue, but if it does, that's enough targets for you to start him in fantasy. And Jared Cook also had a lot of targets for the Rams. He's obviously probably who they have most confidence in. If he could motivate himself to play hard every play, then they'd be in good shape. But anyways, moving on. I only have 4 defenses this week. Cleveland's defense, they have, like I said, 3 easy opponents in a row, so they're a nice pickup for fantasy. New England is a good play this week. Arizona and Houston, in my opinion. IDPs, all I have is Dansby and Cyprian, the safety. So that's what I got for this week. I went 3-2 in fantasy. I'm in the thick of things in almost all my leagues for fantasy or for the playoffs. One league, the ESPN league, I'm not doing good at all, but I still have time to come back. So don't count your boy out. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Hit me up if you need individual advice, but I wish you all the best unless you're playing me. Peace.